Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this week. My name is Tanya, and I'm the Marketing Manager over here at Struxsoft Solutions. So just for those of you who are new with us today, our Star Solution MWF or Metal Wood Framer is our Revit-based BIM framing solution that allows users to automate Revit walls, floors, ceilings, and trusses in like H-steel and also in wood. Today, however, our technician Alex will be walking users through reporting tools available within MWF, but also available within ONYX, which is our latest software for cloud production management. So Alex will be covering reporting tools for multi-layer walls, how to generate MWF material reports to CSV, how to generate ONYX material reports to CSV, and how to report required installations within the panel. So just before we get going, I'd like to remind everyone that at the end of the webinar, we'll be taking a couple of live questions. In order to be selected, please press the raise hand button on the dashboard. Just please also make sure that your mic is working correctly. If you'd prefer, you can ask questions throughout the webinar in the questions tab of the GoToWebinar dashboard as well. For those questions, we'll make sure to get back to you by email within 24 hours. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to hand off to Alex now.
Thank you, Tanya. Welcome everybody to this afternoon's MWF webinar. As Tanya mentioned, we're going to be looking at a few different reporting tools that we have available for you. One of them, which some of you may already be familiar on our wall ribbon, which in MWF right here, is obviously still very good. We're going to look at it really quickly, but I'm not going to emphasize too much time on this. We're going to be looking at something here called the reporting tools. And then as Tanya mentioned, I'm going to be jumping into ONYX, which is a really interesting tool also that we've added recently. For anybody in here who currently is using ONYX and already has an account, if you do not have this activated on your ONYX license, please let me know or one of our team members, and we'll make sure to get this activated for you. And just to give you a quick view of what it would look like, when you're inside of ONYX, in your settings here, there should be a little tab here called Report Templates, which we're going to help set up in order to get your material reports created. So we'll get to that in just a few minutes. I'm going to head back over here. So inside of MWF, as I mentioned before, some of you may already be familiar with the wall report. So I'm going to head over to that in just a second here. So I have a project. Currently, this is framed out of wood. So there's going to be a few panels here that you'll notice that already have members in them. Okay. And then I'm just going to go to my example panel. So for this panel, what I've done is I've actually brought in a Revit link for electrical system. You can also bring in your MEP links and tie them to your panels that we're going to be able to use for the report. So under here, the wall report tool, if I select one of my members and I hit wall report, we'll get this dialog box right here. You'll select a location for where your report is going to be sent. You get to pick the units. Then you get to decide if it's a wall report or the member report. And again, you have different options within these windows here. So as I mentioned, this has already been covered in the past. For anybody who would be interested in seeing this, feel free to just head over to our YouTube page here. And if you just type in reporting tool, example, you'll see here that we've got a tech tip actually and a webinar that was done in 2020 that has very relevant information for that tool. So on my end now, we're going to go to this reporting tool. So if I select a member and I go to the panel's properties, we're going to get a dialog window right here with a bunch of information for us to fill out. So we have two options. You can either do this in the panel view, as you can see right here, or we can go to the table view if this is something that you prefer to work with. I believe the panel view is a little bit easier to see right now, though, unless I open this up really wide. Okay, so you have these two options. If I had multiple panels selected, you'd be able to navigate through the different panels also. So we're going to focus on this area for just a second. So we'll notice there's a lot of information here that can be input prior to actually generating reports. This will also be saved for your panel. So once this is all set up, I just have to hit save down here, and this report template basically will be saved to my panel. So if we're going through this, you have name, instance ID, instant type. So this is looking at our wall. There's some information that you can place for construction and manufacturing references, serial numbers. Okay, then we get to truck loading. So you can, this is for whoever's going to be opening your reports, obviously. Quick and easy information, the orientation of the truck loading, your ID, your truck ID. Okay, so just to keep everything organized. I don't have weight right now on my panels, but if I did, this would be filled up, as well as you see in here the length, height, and area. As I mentioned before, this is a wood project, so this is why my framing type is set to wood. And then we come here to another interesting area, little area. So if there's sheathing, this would be set to yes. And then you can decide, is this going to be factory installed, yes or no? And then you can go through the other subjects also, such as your door, plumbing, electrical, windows. So for example, if there's a door in this project, it's going to say yes, and then you can say yes or no, that it's going to be factory installed also. So as I mentioned before, plumbing and electrical links can be brought into your panel. Once this is filled up, you can go ahead and hit save. Next step is going to be, there's two different methods to generate your report. So I can select my members and just hit generate, or you can also pick the Revit wall. And the two different methods basically is going to depend on what you're trying to get out of this report. Are you trying to get a total information for your wall? So the entire area of the wall, for example, the length, or do you want more information with all the components? So your tracks, your studs, all the members basically that are going to be within it. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, set up our paths. So you can have one default path where your PDF, XML, and CSV files will be dropped, or which this here would help when you're working with different departments at the office. Maybe these files need to go into different folders for specific teams to look at. So you can set up where the PDF, XML, and CSV go. So I'm going to double check that I have these folders set up properly. So we're going to go here to my desktop where I had my folder. So I'm going to have to rename these. So for example, this is going to become my PDF. This here is going to be the XML, and then this one is going to become my CSV. Okay, so I'm going to select PDF for this one. These should all be good now that they're renamed. Next step, author. I'm the author, Alex. And now what's the report type? Right now I want to go with components. Give it a file name. So I'm going to set this to report C. And then down here, again, you have the choice. You can either only generate specific file formats, or you can do create all, and then again, choose the component set data. So is it for walls or is it for components? I'm going to change this. Next, we have the capability of creating a GUID. So it's going to give you a specific code basically for your files, which you'll see in the name. Or you can go ahead and do the append to file name, and then we can add some extra information here. So you can do time, you can add the actual project name, the date. Okay, so there's different information there that you can add to the file. And then if you had a group ID also, you can come in here, give it a name, and then ask for the group ID to be assigned to the name. The last little window that we have is down here at the bottom. So I'm creating a new one right now, but if something was already created, you can uncheck this and overwrite an existing file. You just have to browse for it or append to an existing one. So I'm doing create new. So I'm going to go ahead and create generate new. This is done. And now I can go ahead. So I have my file in the CSV, in the PDF, and the XML right here. So we're going to open up the Excel. Just gonna make this a little bit cleaner. So now we get all this information. Now you'll notice as we're going through here, so some of this information is pulled directly out of your Revit setup. So it gives you the version, the MWF version that you're using, the name that my computer has. This is my Revit login information, basically, which you see just at the top here. Okay, and as we go down, there's a bit more information here. Okay, so this is actually pulled from Revit's, let's just go over here, the project information. So if you head into your project information, you set this up prior to doing your reporting tools, it's able to go and grab some of this information and add it to your report. So you'll see here I had the client name set to owner, for example. So if I go back in, you're seeing that right here. These not applicable parameters that you're seeing, this is another thing that you can set up within Revit. So I don't have them set up in this project, but if you go to your project parameters, okay, and you wanted to add, we can come to the project information here, and I can add those parameters that I'm missing. So for example, here, there was a product name, product family types, variant versions. So all these, you can actually go ahead and add to your project through your parameters. I'm just gonna get out of this. Okay, and we're gonna scroll down a little bit here to the bottom because this was a report for components. So we have here all the different components that are in my panel right now. So you'll see that I do have some of my electrical stuff. I also have all my different members, so my top tracks, bottom tracks, cripples. Okay, and we're just gonna move over a little bit, and we'll see here the item length. You have your total length. I mentioned before I don't have weight, but if you had weight, this would also be populated here. Okay, and then the total quantity of each of these members. And then the other little section here that I skipped over, which is your factory install. So when someone sees this report, they know that, yes, there will be some of these members in the panel, but yes or no, are they supposed to be factory installed? So this is the component report. I'm going to go ahead and exit this, and we're just going to generate the wall report now. So let's pick my Revit wall, and we're going to generate it once again. This time, I'm actually not going to select a path for it to go into each of its own folders. I'm just going to put it into the generic one. Call this Alex again. Wall report. And let's just call this report A. So again, creating all. These are now wall set data instead of the component one. And I'm going to go ahead and create new. Let's just also add the time. Now this is created, and we can go back here. And we'll say that all three files were now generated in the reporting tools folder that I created. If I head back in here, it's going to be very similar, just with a little bit less information in some area. As you can see down here, we no longer have each individual component. We have more of a total for the part number, and then your total lengths. Okay. And again, it's pulling your information from Revit. So I'm just going to exit. So that is this reporting tool here that you have access to if you would like. As I mentioned, it's a little bit different than what we typically had in this ribbon over here. It's just a little bit more information that you can set up. The next step that I want to show you guys is ONYX. So if this is the first time you're seeing ONYX, hopefully this will allow you to get a little bit of interest, maybe look into it. And for whoever already has ONYX, this will allow you to just know that you can create bill of materials and reports within ONYX also. So first thing we're going to do, as I mentioned, was go into settings and report templates. So in the report template here, I already have one created, but I'll still show you what it looks like if you do a new report. It's going to be similar to the panel manager, the work order, all the grids that you see in ONYX typically, which is this here, okay, are all customizable. So by clicking the three little dots here, I can select which column I want to see inside of my report via ONYX. So I can turn some of these on. I can, add more. I'm going to leave it as this for now, and then we're going to adjust it later on. So once this is done, you would hit Save As and give it a name, just like you saw right here where I think I had EXA. So the next step would be to go to one of our projects and then go to our panel manager where we have all the panels uploaded from our Revit project. So from this location, I can pick my panels and I can actually ask to generate the new report here at the top. And then it will ask you to pick a template and give your title for this report. So this is one step. You can also, after selecting your panels, down here, the members grid will be populated. So I'm just going to go ahead and reset my filter. Oops, clear. And what you're seeing down here is basically all the members that are associated to each of these panels. There we go. So I can see absolutely everything that's in all 5 of these panels. So what I can do is select all of them. And the same thing, we have to generate new report or add to an existing report. And then you can create a report from this area just for the members specifically. Okay, now I would pick my template and hit save. And then we would see this pop up now back at the beginning under the material reports page. So once those are generated, I've already created them earlier, so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into here. You get to select the title. This will open your report. You can lock these, you can rename, and you can delete them from this page. If I jump into this one here that I had created for just my top tracks, you'll see here that we have a report now with the count, again, total length and length that we have. And then from this point here, we can export these to an Excel file. We can copy the report URL and then send this page to somebody who also has ONYX on the team. So not necessarily somebody that's at the office. It could be somebody that's on the field. If they need to see something, you can just send them the link and they can log in. And then you can also lock your reports. Once you lock these, everything at the top here is going to be grayed out. Basically, it's disappeared. So this will allow anybody who jumps into here to know this is now locked. There's nothing that can be done. Okay. So I'm going to bring this back and we're going to look at a different material report that was created with all members just before. So I believe this one is the one that I had created multiple different members. So when you're inside of here, you can adjust these as you please in the report. So what I can do is actually filter the same way I did before and say, I only want my cripples. So this is going to filter out the cripples. And then you can go ahead and hit Save As. When I save as, I give this report a new name. So CR02. I save this. It's not going to overwrite what we had before. It's actually just going to create a new report off of the one that we originally had here. So now I have 2 different reports created off of this one. Last little thing, if I go back in here, you can also adjust what your report looks like. So yes, my template was set up to have these different columns showing, but I can go in here and start removing some of these that maybe you actually didn't want. Total weight. And once this is done, I can now save my template, or sorry, the report, and the new columns are now created. Okay, so this is what we have in ONYX. Basically, it's very good, basically to create bill of materials on the web instead of directly within Revit. If someone doesn't have access, for example, to an account on your team, so you can do it on the cloud. And then, as I mentioned before, if there is something that's missing on your ONYX account, reach out to us so we can add it, and we'll help you set that up. So I think that's it for me for today. If anybody has any questions, just before I let Tanya close this up, Feel free to reach out to us after, or right now you can actually raise your hand and we can take live questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Alex. So we'd like to open the floor to you guys, as Alex mentioned. So just take the time now to either type in a question to the questions box of the GoToWebinar dashboard, or if you'd like to raise your hand, you can do so now. And just while we wait for any potential questions to come through, I'd just like to remind everyone that the recording of the presentation will be sent through tomorrow. As always, please feel free to share the recording with any colleagues. And if you'd like to see the recording a little bit earlier, it'll actually be up in about an hour this afternoon on our social media channels. So I'll just give it a couple of seconds to see if any questions have come through. All right, then that looks like that's a wrap for today. So after we close this session, if you have any follow-up questions that you weren't able to ask, we highly encourage you to reach out to our team. Our contact details will be provided along with the recording tomorrow. All right, so we'll now be ending the webinar. I just want to say a big thank you to Alex, and also thank you to everyone who registered and also attended. Have a great day.
Have a good day, everyone.